beings in love, beautiful souls. So I'm going to attempt to record this video and then share and upload, as it seems that each time I'm uploading something now that's talking about higher consciousness, ascension, or anything like that, it seems to be completely buffered and the sound is being muted. So I'm talking at the exact same tone and resonance that I have always. And so I'm hoping that the recording of this is such that it can be heard. It's not at all the first time this has happened, and to be honest, it doesn't either annoy me or anything else. It's just further proving that the vibration is rising, and anything that's artificial and not from the Divine Creator is trying to prevent what is inevitable, which is that love wins. The Divine Creator, the divine beings that we are, win. So I'm going to try and sort of backtrack a little bit by using some illustrations, because a few people have asked me to break down how they can further tap into the quantum field or fast track it. So the beautiful Chantal, thank you for that really, really intelligent question, because not only is it was one question, but it was a multifaceted understanding of meditation, the quantum field, and how we move beyond the projection. So we're looking at today foundation. So I'm going to come back to just how we build a foundation where we can come from a solid platform and start to raise our vibration and integrate those aspects that really intrinsically are what we are connected to. So we do have a fairly good understanding of who we are, and a lot of sense of the things we do and don't like, things that resonate the most. So this is sort of a combination of all of those things and putting it together. So in that, coming back to the fact that we are all part of toroidal field. So we're co-created as toroidal fields by the Divine Creator, God Source, the universe, Divine Mother, Father. So when we look at this, we are the toroidal field as an expression as the micro versus the macro. So looking at macro, or the super macro as I like to call it, is where the energy of the Divine Creator starts as such at 0 point. So that's why when it comes to consciousness levels, there's two sacred numbers. One is 13 and one is 12. So in expressions of the Divine Creator, they never express themselves as anything more than 0 point. So beyond that is where the 12 divine are seen. And as 13, that is acknowledgement or seeing that the Divine Creator is the number one, and then everything flows on from there. So I'm going to see if I can find a piece of artwork that I created some time ago. So, okay, so I'm going to try and hold this up. And so in the middle here, we have what you would see the Divine Creator, Source, or one at oneness, God Source, pure light vibration. And so out from that are fractals. And these fractals are like a tree. And so on this first ring around here are all the codes required for life to exist in the entire multiverse. So going from that and understanding that we are all part of this expression here, is that coming out from this, we are one of those leaves at the end of the tree. So whether you look at that as our planet, our planet is the leaf at the end of one of these little branches way down here somewhere. It's not about the size, it's about the expression of light, because we are light. Our bodies run off light. We are connected by electromagnetic fields that connect all of things back to the divine creator, and anything that interrupts that connection to divine source field is then what would be seen as trauma or blockage that's associated with separation. So when we come back to recognizing we are the toroidal field, and what we are co-creating in this multiverse, in this physical reality, and this divine being body, and whatever expressions you are also on other dimensional planes, then we will see that in that expression, what we feel, see, and experience is what we create. So this is why coming into like Akashic records and understanding all of that level of consciousness, how we can fast track that. So we can step into a place where we're not just receivers and we're just passively working through this. We become very proactive, very conscious on a level that is beyond just the physicality. So with coming back to this, now we, instead of thinking that we're just at the end here, what we're doing now is sending a signal from us down here back up through to the divine creator or divine quantum field. Now this is all the quantum field. So tapping into the quantum field is where we are looking at the energies and the programs, the codes. And programs, they are not necessarily a negative. We use programs usually as an expression to say that this is what's being programmed, and as such, this is the trigger, and this is what the emotional response or physical response would be to that. So what I'm talking about is that there is a certain resonance program, so all through frequency and numbers and number frequency, that is where the divine creator uses basically the principle of mathematics and pattern and repetition to co-create. So in this, Chantal, your question is, how can we speed this up? Wow. If we come back to what we feel, see, and experience is what we become, then you can comprehend just how vital meditation, the practice of meditation, and being able to find a way that works for us individually is vital. That's the foundation of finding a place of stillness and receptivity, and a place where we can sustain that vibration, so we can not only receive but also send a message back to the higher consciousness realm, where we are then able to tap in as a communication flow, because we need a receiver and a sender to have the conversation. So the quantum field is always sending the messages out. We just don't know how to tap into there. So what it is through meditation, what it is it's like through the dial, we're dialing up so that we can hear, see, feel, and experience, depending what your gift is. Sometimes people see, sometimes people will feel, or they'll have an experience where they have visions or colors, or they may even hear a word or see a word flash in front of them. So whatever it is that your gift is, you need to allow and surrender into that. And sometimes that's been a challenge because, again, some of the very human constructs here have prevented us from fully opening our awareness and consciousness so that we can just be in the divine state. So coming back to meditation. So meditation, there are so many ways to meditate. And when I teach transcendental meditation, and I go into a probably kind of a semi-hypnotherapy kind of level, I'm not trained in this, but from the age of 3, I consciously was aware that I was meditating. And so I'd never call it that. I wasn't taught. I remembered from previous existence that that's what I had to do. So I would communicate to angelics and they would tell me to sit and listen. So that's what I would be doing for a big portion of my life as a child, living out in the country. So that is the greatest blessing for me. So when it comes to now finding a way to be in that vibrational field of receptivity, it's dialing the tune, dialing until we can get the connect vibration. So if you're looking at expressions external to us to help us tune into that, so you're looking at, if you are looking at having a candle or a crystal or shells or whatever it represents that resonates with your soul of the divine creator, God source, the universe that helps amplify our energy. That could also be shells or lovely pieces of timber and wood from our sacred forests. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's just a physical expression and manifestation of the divine that resonates for you, an aspect of who you are. So if we're using a candle, one would represent oneness and how you're coming into the oneness. And then 2 is about integrating 2 energy forms. 3 is where we start to use the vibration frequency of triangulation. So triangulation is how the divine creator created the fabric, the matrix, the fabric where all life through the cosmos can exist. So there are principles related to that. So breaking it down and coming back to how you can do this and tap into it, it is simply being able to find a space where you can see, feel, and experience light. So it's a very simple process. So whether it's standing out and having your face up to the sun and breathing in that light that activates your pineal gland, breathing it in, down through every part of your body, and making sure every cell in your body, you can see and feel that same light of our sun, our star, flowing through you. You may also be able to do it with a candle. I find that when people are starting out and they're having difficulty getting through blockages in their mind, there's too much mind chatter, then there's lots of different ways. So you can stand and do that to the sun. You can sit. You can float in water. You can simply start to walk slowly forward, even with your eyes slightly open, slightly closed, slightly open, and each time you're breathing in that vibration of light. And as you're doing so, your intention, your consciousness intention is from your feet up, that you are surrendering off all vibrations that are not of love. And it's a simple mantra. It's like, I surrender all that is not of love. I surrender all that is not of love back to the divine creator, back to the divine light source, back to the highest vibration of love. Whatever works and resonates for you is where you come from, your power center. So in this, I've got a couple of pictures that may help. This is from my book Kismet that I wrote and published some years ago. So I'm going to talk about how we keep some balance in that. So when you're coming from a place of power, that's why the triangle or the pyramid is so incredibly powerful. And this is where I come back to showing people that balance between what your gut, which is your primary brain, your first brain, and then of course you have your secondary brain, and then this is the third and the higher consciousness brain, which is the heart. And having balance between all 3 is essential to keep us in heart-centered space. So what that's talking about is that if we are having too much mind chatter, we can't stay in our hearts, we're not listening to our gut. Or what it is that our gut has spoken or our heart has spoken, and the mind consciousness has no way of breaking down that information and then working out a way to implement measures, actions, and responses to deal with that influx of information that was the first primary input. So whether it was something that resonated positive, negative energies, a situation, a person, memory, whatever it is that could trigger that. When we get into mind clutter, which is part of what we see as normal society now, what we're doing is essentially coming away from living from our heart space. And what we're wanting to do is completely surrender back into our heart space and breathing through our heart, so that in all of our actions, all the things that we say and do in this physical reality here and now, is an expression of our true self that connects back to our higher self and the divine creator, God, pure God source. It seems quite difficult, but what it is that in the foundation of connecting back to yourself, what you're having to do is deprogram everything that you thought was either truth, what you experienced and felt, and why we saw them as negative, positive. So in that process, part of that foundation is comprehending that as we incarnate in this world, this planet, there have been artificial codes, artificial programs running that wipe our memory so we do not remember what we learnt, what wisdom and experiences we had in our continuum of life flow. So I remember all of these things because this is only my second incarnation as a physical being. I remember my first from about 6,000 years ago. Very clearly, I always knew I was a male, even as a very young child. I remembered what I looked like, and that was the greatest blessing for me. A lot of people might have seen that as really confusing. I was very blessed that I didn't disconnect from the angelic realm, and I had angelic beings watching over me and keeping me safe and mentoring me through this whole process. And we all have that. I'm nothing different or special than anyone else. We all have that. It's just that some stop listening, stop feeling, stop experiencing the divine protection and the divine connection. So as we come back to working through those processes, so the blockages. So when there's a blockage that's coming from the third eye or the throat, what's happening is that as we're trying to breathe through this divine energy of light, which is all we want to do is to fill our bodies with light, because it's light that is the codes. That is the quantum field. The quantum field runs off light. This is an electromagnetic field that expresses itself in light, because we are light body beings. We're reintegrating our rainbow body, and so we're coming back to ascending back into what we were before we had to descend to learn the lessons, not only for ourselves but the collective consciousness and all of creation. So we came in to do this and transmute this energy. So coming back to your question, Chantal, so as we get mind swiped from this life, we don't have memory, but we can access that by accessing the Akashic records. So Akashic records, we have ours. So I, right here now, have to just express that I started seeing Akashic records that are expressed through the crown chakra that we're all connected to, which would be our past lives. People see it as karma, and so I was asked some time ago by the angelics to start to clear Akashic records. Akashic records are all the history of whatever has happened, past, present, future, and all of the karma that can be attached to that. So there are a lot of trauma that can be attached. So what it is that make your intention that you are clearing your karma. So that's the first thing that I would say to people that can be the blockage from working through different levels of tapping into the quantum field, because there are particular lives that we've had traumas and repeated the pattern many times over, and it's become like a loop. And so because the karma has not been healed from that, and we have not surrendered and made peace with that, what happens is that becomes what we come back to, that feeling or source that is blocking us from then connecting to our higher self. So if you're making your intention through meditation that you call in the highest consciousness of love, highest consciousness of light from the divine creator source, from Christ consciousness, and what you want to do is ask that this all karma from past, present, future be surrendered back to the divine light to be healed forevermore. It's intention. So many people have used some substances to try to break through and crack open the third eye. There are a lot of things that do that. I, as a healer, I'm not condoning or saying you should or shouldn't do that. I am just saying that I know others that have used it. I haven't so much myself. That's just because the way that my life experiences have occurred, it wasn't necessarily required. So there's no judgment or opinion about that, only to say that at the moment, in this present time, there is no veil. And sometimes through using substances, if you're not being facilitated by someone who's a very good grounding source and a healer, if you're using substances and it doesn't agree with you, or it's too much and you crack your etheric, there are energies and entities that are floating around now, because there's no veil, that may try to come in and cause all kinds of havoc. And I'm not talking on a fear-based level, I'm just talking come from a totally wisdom perspective here. So I can't tell anyone what to do, what works for them. All I can say is that when you're working through this, it's a great idea to also have someone who can facilitate that if there has been some trauma. I highly recommend that. So what you can do is just by intention. So for me, I always use at least 3 candles. Sometimes it'll be 3, sometimes 6, sometimes 9, sometimes 12. So depending on the vibration that I want to use, and then bring in the element of nature. For me, it's always usually about feathers that represent the messengers, the wings of the messengers, the angelic high vibration light beings, as well as crystals that vibrate at a frequency that resonates for either my chakra system or an energy form, or some crystals that I know and have researched, or I have come into their bestowed possession, but not possession as such, as the keeper of that for such time, so a custodian. So using all of these elements. So what you want to do is then find a place and a space that you can hold that light vibration. And then by intention that you ask through your heart, and you can feel it when it resonates, that your intention is to connect through to your highest aspect of self in its highest vibration of love. And ask that highest vibration of self to show itself to you, either in a physical form that they are expressing themselves at, in another dimensional realm or another place, and ask to connect to that, so then you can help shift into the quantum field and allow your higher consciousness to guide you to the steps that are correct for you. Everyone is different. All of our experiences are such that free will remains the only law, the law of one. No one shall encroach on your free will, apart from the fact that if you're doing harm against the innocent, like children and people that are vulnerable, then it is our responsibility as a society and a race to prevent such a thing. Other than that, the law of free will is such that your path can only be guided by you and your highest consciousness. No one else should tell you what to do or how to do it. Yourself knows this. Your higher consciousness will give you the guidance, the steps, exactly what to do. So when you're sitting and you're wanting to connect to your highest consciousness, and what will happen is that you will see that instead of the energy flow down, you will see that as you hold your vibration, you can send a signal up in a channel of light up through the crown chakra. And what you will see is that you will connect to another light vibration. And that light vibration is the quantum field. And from that, you can have access to your Akashic records, which you're wanting to clear. So if you see them and experience them, then simply, if it's something that becomes a traumatic experience, just remember that this is just a memory. You are not living through it now. You have all the capacity to even go back to that life and change the scenario. You have that power. We all do. So going back into a past life that was traumatic, sit with that and think, this happened. I died. It was terrible. People should have helped me. Blah, blah, blah. So you felt like a victim when you died. So what you do is now change the scenario. It's like, okay, so I see I died, but there were different aspects that could have had a different outcome. So what it is that you go back in and see the situation as it needs to be healed. So if you died disempowered, then you want to go back and empower yourself in that vision and circumstance. So what you would do is go in there. It's like, nope, I picked up a weapon and I fought back and I held my own so that you didn't die as a victim. You died as a warrior and someone empowered. So no one took away your power, but what happened is, even though it was your time to pass over at that time, at that moment, you died with a sense of inner power. You stepped into your own and came at it from a higher consciousness, so you can heal that. So those wounds that we had, they will all start to go away. So in the quantum field is access to all of that. It also brings through messages that are a part of our mission in this time, this place, this space. So when we do that, we can sit in silence, or float in silence, or walk in silence, or if it helps with theta music, other music that helps brainwaves for you, if that's what works, by all means do so, and allow it to flow through. So put it out there and ask, what is it that I can do to heal not only myself, but the planet and all of humanity today? Because when we start to see the micro back into the macro, that we are just fractals of reflection of what we each are, then we come at it from a consciousness and awareness where we can heal all. All is healed through love. So we need to stay in the love heart vibration. Even if we get annoyed and anger, it's how we look at that and recover from that as quick as possible and find a way to love the situation. This morning I got caught out in the rain, and instead of reacting, going, oh, I have to get somewhere by that time, I was like, oh, thanks universe for giving me the time to just sit and breathe in this fresh air and take in the beauty and just pause. Just to be here now, and then get on with the rest of my day that I needed to achieve. So that in itself is about gratitude, and that's what the universe speaks to. Love, gratitude, compassion, empathy. That's the vibration that the universe and the quantum field responds to. So the more we give gratitude, acknowledgement, and allow it to flow through us, again, it's like practicing a skill. The more that we do these things, the more the universe, mostly actually our higher consciousness is what we classify as the universe. Our higher consciousness is the one sending messages to us because it knows the best. It knows what our past, present, and future is going to be, because it can see all at the same time simultaneously. And very soon humanity is going to be at that same level. But for now, we're still working through a lot of stuff collectively, individually, and being reflections of each other's fractal. So in that, it's a place of compassion, of love, allowing others to work through what they have to do, and then surrendering in to just being who you are, doing what you have to do in the here and now. So if anyone has any further questions, I'm going to do some additional posting perhaps this afternoon or tomorrow, and that's working in the quantum field, how to do that and develop your own technique in meditation. But essentially, to fast track this, as your question was, Chantel, practice, alignment of vibration. So tuning in the dials so that you can feel your body, your etheric, your entire being of consciousness in this vessel here with light, and then able to then send a message from who you are, completely aligned in light, send the message back out to the universe through the vibration of love that you are wanting to fast track, or you are wanting to clear your Akashic records, clear karma, move beyond the lower vibrations, which is what we are doing. Is I surrender all low vibrations back to love, to be healed. And as we're doing that, we're doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for the whole human race, we're doing it for this entire planet, all the living beings in this, the animals, the trees, so they can all be cleared of karma. because karma is the one thing that can weigh down the vibration and keep programs in place. So that's a way to fast track this. I hope that's helped. And if anyone else, like I said, has more questions, please post after this, and I will do my utmost to try and answer that in a time that might work for this platform still being around. Blessings and love. Thank you.